Hello and welcome to the Bison Basketball Show. I'm Shawn. The non-conference portion of the schedule is in full swing for North Dakota State. David Richman and the Bison men have spent a lot of time in buses and airports the first few weeks, but finally got to play a couple of games in Fargo, starting with the home opener against Florida A&M the night before Thanksgiving. It was the first ever meeting between the Bison and Rattlers on the court, and the home team came out firing. Paul Miller rolling off a screen, hitting a deep three-pointer early in the contest. Later, Miller distributing one of his 6 assists to Dylan Miller for the jam as the Bison build an 11-point lead. More good ball rotation when Florida A&M goes to zone. Chris Quayle kicking it out to A.J. Jacobson for another 3. The senior added 13 points on 4 of 6 shooting. Then Florida native Tyson Ward hesitates, cuts inside for the lay-in. The Bison shot 50% from the floor and took a 42-28 lead into the locker room. In the second half, a long rebound for Miller. He pushes in transition and gets it ahead to Jared Samuelson. The sophomore knocks down another 3 as NDSU pushes the lead to 20 points. Later, Ward gliding in for another lay-in. He had a team-high 17 points to go along with 7 rebounds and 4 assists. Rocky Cruiser hit a couple of second-half threes as well, all a part of a 29-point performance from the NDSU bench. That included Dangu, who scored 10 points, including this big jam inside on the feed from Ward. Jacobson would drop in another 3 with just under 9 minutes to go to put this one away for good as NDSU rolls in its home opener, 80-66 the final. The Bison had 5 players in double figure scoring and hit 17 of 23 from the line.
It's nice to play people that you're familiar with, and it makes it more fun and you get more passionate about it because you really want to prove yourself. But you go back home and you talk about it and you get better, and then you come back and you play them again one time, and that's what makes it so fun.
It felt like we were moving the ball really well. I haven't really checked the numbers, but it felt like we had a ton of assists, more than we usually do. So guys were just getting other people involved and sharing the ball tonight.
The Bison played host to Stetson a few days later to round out the homestand and came out firing from long range. Paul Miller, a deep 3 from the top of the key for an early lead. Later, freshman Cameron Hunter spinning at half court and then gliding in for the lay-in. Hunter, another strong performance off the bench with 16 points on 5 of 7 shooting. The Hatters were led by senior Divine Miles, who was the only Stetson player in double-figure scoring with 24 points, including 3 of 4 from long range to keep it tight in the first half. But NDSU continued to get big production off the bench. Chris Quayle with the shot fake and then hitting the 3. He chipped in with 7 points in 20 minutes of action. Tyson Ward turned in another strong performance as well. The Florida native loses the handle inside, gets it back and scores, plus the foul. North Dakota State led by 10 at half. The Herd would start off the second half with a 6-0 spurt. Spencer Eliason slipping inside. He scored 7 points in his first career start. On the ball rotation, Miller another assist, this time to Dangu, who buries the corner 3. The Bison were 7 of 11 from long range in the second half. Miller would drop in another 3 to build a 20-point lead. He notched a double-double with 16 points and 11 rebounds. Ward had a career night for NDSU as well, scoring 26 points, 10 of 12 from the floor, including a pair of 3s as the Bison pull away for good. Rocky Cruiser would put on the finishing touches, getting the feed from Miller and throwing it down for the basket and the foul. North Dakota State rolls to its 3rd straight victory, 94-58. The Bison shot 57% from the floor and had 42 points in the paint.
We really stay in the gym. It goes down to Paul and it goes down to AJ, and then it trickles down to the freshmen and the sophomores. They stay in the gym, and you can see that everybody's been in the gym getting better, and it shows in their play.
It's always great to get production off the bench. There's parts of the team. Everyone's a part of the team. We got to get production out of everyone to win each night. It just boosts our confidence. Every night we go into a game, just trying to get better every day, and I think we did that tonight.
NDSU right back on the road 3 days later at Southland Conference favorite Stephen F. Austin. Bison down 4 early when Tyson Ward collects the offensive rebound and puts it back in. Ward 8 points on the night, 11-9 game. The Lumberjacks would answer with a 9-0 run, coming up with one of their 13 steals. Ty Charles up to Leon Gilmore for 2 of his 10 points on the lay-in. but NDSU would rally back behind the hot shooting of Jared Samuelson, one of his 3 first-half three-pointers. He had 14 points off the bench, Bison down just 4 at the half. In the second half, Paul Miller would come alive, getting the feed and hitting the corner 3, and it's just a 1-point game. Stephen F. Austin able to get some separation with another 8-0 run. Shannon Bogues had a team-high 15-2 on this lay-in as the lead swells to 10. A.J. Jacobson would lead a late charge with a pair of 3-pointers, and it's back to a 4-point game with just 4 minutes to go. With under 2 minutes to go, Miller feeds Spencer Eliason for the lay-in and the foul. His only basket of the night keeps NDSU close. Down 5 with under 10 seconds left. Miller hitting again from long range to cut the lead to 2. The senior had a team-high 15 points, but the Lumberjacks get 2 free throws to ice it with a few seconds left. Ivan Kaniti getting the roll to put it away. 54-50 the final. The Bison turned it over 28 times, most in the Division I era. Stephen F. Austin had 28 free throw attempts in the game compared to just 11 for NDSU. Stay with us here on the Bison Basketball Show. We sit down with head coach Dave Richman on the successful weekend at home. That's coming up next.
The Bison Basketball Show on Midco Sports Network is presented by Nodak Insurance Company, Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, and Proceed.
All right, now back here with NDSU men's basketball coach Dave Richman in the Nodak Insurance Company Bison practice facility. And Dave, 2 impressive wins at home over Florida A&M and Stetson to go to 3-2 on the season. That's got to be encouraging for you to have your team continue to play well at home. Now 39-3 since you've been the head coach here on your home court. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, we certainly take a lot of pride in protecting our home court. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into it. We have a tremendous fan base. You look at our attendance numbers where they were in the Summit League. I think we led by over 1,000, which is terrific. And so I feel like we got a good product. We've got great facilities now, and then a passionate fan base. It's a great combination.
Well, to put 80 points and 94 points in consecutive games, I know that fans are going to love that. I know you're still going to like that, but the defensive effort, I know, is something you take a lot of pride in. And holding a team like Stetson to just 58 points is pretty impressive.
Yeah, there's no question. You know, we really built our program around what's going to win in February and March. And you can control certain things, and sometimes your shots aren't going to go in, but what you can control is your attitude and your effort, especially on the defensive end. And I thought we've really shown some progress here at home over the last couple games. And now it's, again, if we're a finished product here in late November, we're not going to be very good. We just got to keep building. We got to keep growing.
I know depth was something you were excited about coming into the season. We've seen guys off the bench continue to grow, the Chris Quayles, the Rocky Cruisers, some of those guys. And you're spreading out the minutes more evenly and distributing them more evenly. Have you seen significant growth through the first couple of weeks from everybody?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you know, this time last year, Rocky was maybe 10 practices into a senior year in high school. So I think Rocky's got a chance to be a really good player here. There's just certain things. I know I keep saying it. You just got to grow through some things, and it's encouraging to see him go out there and in 14, 20 minutes or whatever, really grow, gain that confidence. And Rocky, Chris Quayle, even a guy like Cameron Hunter who was redshirting last year. There's just a bunch of those guys that are gaining confidence along the way. Guys that have played spot minutes. Dane Gu and Spencer Eliason are giving us good extended minutes, and that's really encouraging to see.
We caught glimpses of what Tyson Ward was going to be able to do last year as a freshman, but after an offseason in the weight room and some of the changes he's made to his body and also the way he's improved his game, he's really stepped it up, maybe 2 levels from where he was. And we saw that in this last homestand.
Yeah, we knew when we recruited him and he committed here that he had a chance to be pretty talented. And give him credit. He's put in the work in the offseason. Like you mentioned, he's physically stronger, and you gain confidence from that. He's more aggressive, and he's getting rewarded for all those things. And again, like Tyson's a talented young man. Along the way, like all of us, if he continues to love the process, he's got a bright future here.
And road trips are always tough. Playing 5 of the first 7 on the road, we knew that was going to be a challenge. You knew that was going to be a challenge. But at the same time, more growing experiences having to take a bus trip from Stephen F. Austin to Mississippi State. I mean, your team is kind of going through what the grind is going to be once you get into January.
Yeah, and I don't always love that word, the grind, but you're right. I mean, we're gonna be on the bus even more, and that's all part of it. We talk about growing on the court. I think some of those experiences in the airport, on the buses, they help you grow off the court, gain that chemistry and that toughness and togetherness are a big part of who we are.
You know, when you guys get back now from this trip and it's all said and done, you're finally home for a little bit longer, and even the road trip you have to make is just up north a little ways. Is it one of those things now as a coach? How do you manage the next month trying to figure out all the pieces until you get ready for conference play?
Yeah, I think the big thing in the non-conference is picking and choosing your times to really get meaningful practices in. As much as we've got to continue to grow, we need to have those fresh bodies, because I think part of that growing experience happens by gaining confidence and winning games. So, you know, we're being cognizant of all that, being smart with our young guys and our legs. But certainly we've got to take every advantage, whether it's a shoot around, a walk through, a practice to get better, because by no means in November are we a finished product.
Well, it's nice to see you at home for a little while anyways, and we'll get you back here eventually.
Yeah, it'll be nice to be home, but that being said, you know, the experiences that, like we talked about, that are gained on the road are priceless.
All right, Dave, we'll chat with you next week.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, Dave Richman here joining us on the Bison Basketball Show. Stay tuned. The Bison women on the road out in Navy for a couple of games in a tournament this past weekend. Welcome back. It's uncharted territory for many members of the NDSU women's basketball team. The young Bison are off to the program's best start since 2005, but had to go on the road for the first time this season, playing 2 games at the Navy Classic in Annapolis, Maryland. The Bison would take on host Navy to start, both teams coming in at 4-0. Midshipmen off quickly. In transition, Bianca Roach pump fakes, then goes up and in for 2. Navy up 12-2. Sarah Jacobson would answer with a corner 3. She added 6 points for the Bison, but NDSU trailed by 15 after the first quarter. Marina Fernandez got things started with a long 3 in the second quarter. She also had a team-high 7 rebounds. NDSU pulled within 8, trailing 37-29 at half. The Herd keeps within striking distance in the third quarter. Macy Quilvang posting up inside and going strong to the basket. Later, Riley Jacobson would hit the short turnaround jumper. She tied for team honors, scoring 11 points on 5 of 11 shooting, but the midshipmen held NDSU to just 33% from the floor. Morgan Taylor scored a game-high 17, including a pair of 3-pointers, as Navy goes on to hand the Bison women their first loss of the season, 67-54. Navy had 21 offensive rebounds and 22 second chance points. Taylor Thunstead also had 11 points on the afternoon for North Dakota State. A quick turnaround for the Herd, taking on Maryland-Baltimore County the very next day. Sarah Jacobson getting the nice feed inside from Macy Quilvang for the lay-in, 2-point game early. Riley Jacobson would also reach double-digit scoring for the third straight game, chipping in with 12 points off the bench. NDSU would outscore the Retrievers 19-4 in the second quarter to build a lead at halftime. Michelle Geislerova connecting on the long 3 at the horn, 35-21 Bison after the first 20 minutes. Riley Nudell started off the third quarter knocking down the 3. She had a team-high 14 points. After an offensive rebound, Jacobson would drive the paint and get 2 more, all a part of a 12-2 run to extend the lead to 25. Geislerova would add another 3 late in the third quarter to put the game out of reach for good. She added 10 points off the bench, and NDSU rolls to the 67-53 victory, improving to 5-1. The Herd only committed 7 turnovers in the game and limited UMBC to just 27% shooting overall to close out the 2-day tournament. We now welcome in NDSU women's basketball coach Maren Walseth to the set to chat about the women's basketball trip out to Annapolis, Maryland in the Navy Classic. And I'm guessing that was kind of fun and special for you because that's where your career started, was out there. That was the first time you had a chance to become a college assistant coach.
Absolutely, a little surreal in that respect, but a great opportunity and a great experience for our young ladies. So many had not been to the East Coast, Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. So it's really great to have those off-court experiences as well as the success on the court.
Absolutely, and getting a chance to go back out there, you guys got to tour and see a lot of cool things out in D.C., and I know that's something you take a lot of pride in, is bringing those educational experiences to your players who have not had the opportunity to see some of those sites. Fun for you, probably more fun to see your players enjoying that.
I enjoy DC, I really do. There's so many great things, and we only scratch the surface. But being able to see the young players, their eyes light up, and in the conversations that they had amongst each other in some of the places that we went, you know, you begin to see the the maturity and some of the off-court experiences that they value really come to life, and I enjoy that as a coach.
And then on the court, taking on Navy, the host, right away. Knew that was going to be a tough game. They're a physical bunch, but you guys hung with them. Maren, it was a competitive game, a 13-point loss, but what did you take out of that game against the host to start things off?
Absolutely. All credit to the Naval Academy. They came out very aggressive on the boards, very aggressive attacking the basket, and kind of caught us on our heels. So the conversation during, after, and then prior to the UMBC game was, how do we take the first step? How are we the aggressors? And I was very pleased with our bounce back against UMBC.
Yeah, to come back really less than 24 hours later and have to play again like that, it's a good experience, I know, for your players to see how they respond in a short period of time. But we had talked about your depth. Off to a little bit of a sluggish start, but then once your team hit their stride, everybody started rolling in that second quarter.
Absolutely. The second quarter, it started on the defensive end, and our ability to get 10 stops in a short amount of time there, and then convert it on the offensive end as well, really speaks to our depth. We were able to keep pushing the pace on both ends of the floor and extend our lead.
I know at home it was nice to kind of get those first 4 games under your belt before you had to go on the road for the first time, but I think a road victory for a young team, that can build a lot of confidence, considering you have to go right back out on the road again and play 2 games.
Absolutely. When you schedule, you want to look at different things and put your team in situations that test them and put them in adversity. And we certainly did that. We were able to start out confidently, but then we have to go on the road. And for us to get 1 win under our belt before we go out on the road again speaks to who we are as a team, and definitely gives us confidence.
Right back out on the road, you take on a Colorado club that you hosted last year, and then you have to go to Milwaukee. This is where the fun begins as a coach, I know, for some of these off-court experiences, but this should be 2 fun games again for your club to participate in.
Absolutely. Colorado will pose definitely a challenge for us in their size, their athleticism, and then right back to Milwaukee, where we had a very competitive game with them last year. So looking forward to getting a little sleep and right back at it. And
then back home, going to try to catch some of the football game on Saturday, and then you're finally home again against UT Rio Grande Valley, so that'll be fun too.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Maren, for joining us here on the Bison Basketball Show. Stay with us. We will check in with Dylan Miller on this next episode of One on One. That's coming up next in the Bison Basketball Show. Welcome back to the Bison Basketball Show. Making the transition from small-town high school basketball to Division I hoops can take a while. NDSU forward Dylan Miller didn't have a lot of time to get acclimated, playing right away as a true freshman, making 23 starts. This week we go one-on-one with the Bison Junior. All right, back for another edition of One on One. We are joined by one of the big men on the roster for the North Dakota State men's basketball team, and that is Dylan Miller in his junior season out of Hillsboro, Illinois. Tell me something interesting about Hillsboro, Illinois we may not know, because that's not anywhere near here.
No, it's not. The school I go to has about like 6 different towns that go to one school. So I'm actually from Panama, Illinois.
Oh, really? So it's kind of like a co-op, like that was in North Dakota.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Dylan, talk about when you first came here. I know when you first get to North Dakota, you're trying to adjust to college life, trying to adjust to college basketball. What was the toughest part for you as you got acclimated to the college game?
I would say just the atmosphere and everything, really. Just completely different, going from a small town, not really that many people, and coming to somewhere here where like everybody's like behind the sports and everything.
Okay, so, all right, what are some basics? You know, if you're guarding me and you're playing post defense, because you got to go up against some really good big guys in the Summit League, right? I get the ball inside and you're trying to defend me. What are you looking at with me? What are you trying to determine as you're positioning me away from the basket?
Well, I'm going to have my back to the rim. I'm going to have the forearm here just for strength. I'm going to always be sitting here trying to get that ball, like just kind of making you bother you and trying to keep you from pretty much getting anywhere close to the basket.
So if I'm bouncing here, you're always keeping that on my hip.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing, is trying to keep not giving any of your space
Absolutely.
away. So of all the big guys that you go against the Summit League, who's the toughest guy to defend, or who have you enjoyed going against the most?
That's hard to say. I mean, obviously there's Mike Dom. He's just an all-around player, so I mean that's kind of always hard to guard because he's inside, outside, just everywhere. But there's a lot of good bigs in the Summit League.
So now that you're coming in, what part of your game do you feel has improved the most since you got to campus here?
I would say my defense has gotten a lot better. I feel like in high school I was more kind of an offensive-oriented guy, but now I'm kind of more getting evened out.
So away from basketball, because I know every once in a while you guys got to get away from the game, and it seems like it's not all the time, but what do you like to do when you're away from this? Or maybe what's a passion of yours that we may not know about?
I love to work on cars, actually.
Really?
I do.
So work on cars, what does that entail? You do everything?
Pretty much anything I can. I've always taught myself how to do stuff, so I always watch YouTube videos, always learn how to do new things. If something's wrong with like the car or anything like that, I'll always look it up, see if I can do it myself.
So what's your favorite thing to do on a car? Who got you into this, by the way?
My grandpa kind of. He's always done a lot of stuff with cars, and I kind of always just followed and just always kind of loved cars.
So what's your favorite thing to do? I mean, like tweaking on engines, changing oil, but what's the big thing?
I mean, changing oil is kind of like the easy part. I like to do more like I like learning new things. Like every time something new comes up, it's like always like a challenge, so it's always wonderful to learn.
So that's your thing?
Yeah.
All right, Dylan. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Good luck to you this season.
Appreciate it.
It's Dylan Miller, one-on-one. Miller ended his career second all-time at Hillsborough High School in scoring with 1,520 points, averaging 23 points and 11 rebounds per contest his senior year. Stay with us here on the Bison Basketball Show as we get you set for the week ahead.
The Bison Basketball Show on Midco Sports Network is presented by Nodak Insurance Company, Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, and Proceed.
Back to close out this episode of the Bison Basketball Show as we take a look ahead. The NDSU men continue their road trip down south with a matchup against Mississippi State in Starkville on Thursday before returning home to host Missouri State on Midco Sports Network on Monday evening at 7 p.m. That will be a rematch from a couple of weeks ago. The Bison women are back on the road for a pair of games at Colorado and Milwaukee this week before returning home to host UT Rio Grande Valley next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. We'll have that game for you on Midco Sports Network as well. Thanks so much for joining us this week on the Bison Basketball Show. We'll see you next time.